Self-love begins with self-respect, not self-indulgence. Stop asking others to validate what you must believe about yourself. Self-love is one of the most misunderstood ideas in the world. People think self-love means confidence without fear, happiness without pain, or liking everything about yourself all the time. But real self-love is much deeper than that. Real self-love is not loud. It does not seek attention. It does not beg to be seen. Real self-love is quiet strength. It is what remains when applause fades, when relationships change, and when life tests you in ways no one sees. To build self-love that no one can break, you must first understand this truth. Self-love is not about how you feel on good days. It is about how you treat yourself on your worst days. Anyone can love themselves when life is going well. But when you fail, when you are rejected, when you feel behind, tired, or uncertain, that is where unbreakable self-love is formed. Self-love begins with self-respect. That means you stop tolerating what slowly destroys you. It means you walk away from environments that drain you, conversations that belittle you, and habits that keep you small. You do not need permission to protect your peace. The moment you start choosing what is healthy over what is familiar, you are practicing self-love at its highest level. Self-love does not mean doing whatever feels good in the moment. It does not mean avoiding responsibility, ignoring discipline, or excusing destructive habits under the name of being kind to yourself. That version of self-love is temporary and fragile. A true self-love begins with self-respect, the kind of respect that holds you to a higher standard, even when no one is watching. Self-respect means you stop lying to yourself. You stop pretending that certain habits, relationships, or behaviors are harmless when deep down you know they are slowly draining you. It means being honest about what is hurting you and having the courage to address it instead of numbing yourself with distraction. Self-love grows when you choose long-term peace over short-term comfort. When you respect yourself, you no longer tolerate environments that diminish your confidence. You become aware of how people speak to you, how they treat your time, and how they make you feel about yourself. You realize that allowing disrespect, even silently, is a form of self-betrayal. Self-respect teaches you that walking away is sometimes the strongest act of love you can give yourself. Self-respect also shows up in the standards you set for your life, the standards for how you rest, how you work, how you love, and how you recover after failure. You stop settling for less than you deserve, not because you feel entitled, but because you understand your value. You understand that your time, energy, and effort are limited and should not be wasted on what does not align with your growth. Discipline is another expression of self-respect. Waking up when you don't feel like it, taking care of your body even when motivation is low, and staying committed to your goals even when progress feels slow. These are not punishments. They are acts of self-love. They are ways of telling yourself, I matter enough to do what's best for me. A self-respect also means you stop seeking validation in places that repeatedly disappoint you. You no longer chase approval from people who cannot give it freely or sincerely. Instead, you begin to build an inner sense of worth that does not rise or fall based on external reactions. This is where self-love becomes unbreakable, when it's no longer dependent on how others respond to you. Choosing self-respect requires courage. It may cost you comfort. It may cost you familiarity. It may even cost you people. But every time you choose what honors you instead of what pleases others, you strengthen your relationship with yourself. And that relationship becomes the foundation on which real, lasting self-love is built. One of the biggest obstacles to self-love is the constant need for validation. When your confidence depends on compliments, attention, or approval from others, your sense of worth becomes unstable. It rises when you are praised and collapses when you are ignored or criticized. True self-love cannot survive in that cycle. It requires you to stop outsourcing your self-belief to people who do not live your life or carry your struggles. Seeking validation often comes from self-doubt. Deep down, it is the belief that someone else knows your value better than you do. That belief keeps you stuck in people-pleasing, over-explaining, and constantly adjusting yourself to fit into spaces where you were never meant to belong. When you ask others to confirm your worth, you give them power over how you see yourself. And that power can be taken away at any moment. Learning to validate yourself means learning to trust your own experience. It means recognizing your effort even when no one notices. It means acknowledging your growth even when it is slow and quiet. Many of the most important battles you fight will never be seen by the world, but they still matter. When you learn to see yourself clearly, you stop needing others to reflect your value back to you. Validation addiction also keeps you trapped in comparison. You measure your success against someone else's applause, their attention, or their achievements. This creates insecurity and resentment instead of confidence. Self-love grows when you focus inward on your progress, your intentions, and your alignment, instead of outward on how you are being perceived. This does not mean you stop caring about connection or feedback. It means you stop letting feedback define you. You can listen without shrinking. You can learn without losing yourself. When praise comes, you appreciate it without becoming dependent on it. When criticism comes, you evaluate it without allowing it to destroy your self-worth. Building self-love requires the courage to stand alone emotionally. It means believing in yourself even when no one understands your vision. It means choosing to trust your inner voice even when it feels uncomfortable or uncertain. The moment you stop asking others to validate what you must believe about yourself, you begin to reclaim your power. Your worth is not something that can be increased by praise or reduced by criticism. It is not a reward for being perfect, successful, or liked. It is not something others get to vote on. Yet many people live as if their value is constantly up for negotiation, changing based on how they are treated, who chooses them, or how well they perform. This belief slowly erodes self-love and replaces it with fear. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of not being enough. When you tie your worth to opinions, you become emotionally reactive. A single negative comment can outweigh 10 positive ones. Someone's disapproval can make you question years of effort. You start shaping yourself around expectations instead of truth, trying to become more acceptable instead of more authentic. Over time, this creates exhaustion, resentment, and a deep disconnection from who you really are. Understanding that your worth is fixed changes how you move through the world. You stop chasing acceptance at the cost of self-respect. You stop over-explaining your choices to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You realize that being disliked does not mean being unworthy. It often means you are being honest, different, or unwilling to shrink. Opinions are shaped by limited perspectives, personal wounds, jealousy, and misunderstanding. People see you through the lens of their own experiences, not through the truth of who you are. When you internalize their judgments, you carry burdens that were never yours to hold. Self-love means recognizing the feedback can inform you, but it cannot define you. When your sense of worth is unshakable, rejection hurts less because no longer feels personal. Failure becomes a lesson instead of a verdict. You begin to separate what you do from who you are. You can make mistakes without labeling yourself as a mistake. This shift creates emotional stability and inner peace, even in difficult situations. Believing that your worth is non-negotiable requires repetition and practice. You remind yourself of it when you feel overlooked, when relationships end, when plans fall apart, and when progress feels slow. Each time you refuse to let someone else's opinion rewrite your value, you strengthen your self-love and reclaim ownership of your identity. Many people struggle with self-love not because they dislike themselves, but because they have never truly been alone with themselves. Silence feels uncomfortable. Stillness feels heavy. The moment there is no noise, no phone, no conversation, no tasks to escape into, unresolved thoughts begin to surface. instead of listening. Most people run, they stay busy, overstimulated, constantly distracted, not to be productive, but to avoid facing themselves. Learning to sit with yourself is an act of courage. It means allowing your thoughts to rise without immediately judging or suppressing them. It means noticing your emotions without trying to numb them. When you constantly escape discomfort, you also escape self-awareness. And without self-awareness, self-love cannot grow. In those quiet moments, you begin to understand what you actually feel, not what you pretend to feel for the sake of others. You notice patterns in your thinking, the self-doubt, the fear, the old wounds that still influence your choices. Sitting with yourself allows you to identify what needs healing instead of ignoring it. Awareness becomes the first step toward change. Distraction gives the illusion of peace, but it only delays healing. The emotions you avoid do not disappear, they wait. When you finally slow down, they demand attention. Self-love, love is learning to meet those emotions with patience rather than resistance. You stop punishing yourself for feeling pain and start listening to what that pain is trying to teach you. Spending time alone also builds emotional independence. You realize that you do not need constant validation, entertainment, or company to feel okay. You begin to enjoy your own presence. This does not mean isolation. It means comfort in solitude. When you can be alone without feeling empty, your relationships become healthier because you are no longer using others to fill a void. Sitting with yourself strengthens your inner voice. Instead of being overwhelmed by external opinions, you learn to hear your own thoughts clearly. You gain clarity about your values, boundaries, and desires. The more time you spend with yourself, the less you abandon yourself, and the stronger your foundation of self-love becomes. The voice inside your head is with you in every moment. In silence, in failure, in success, and in uncertainty, it comments on everything you do, reminding you of past mistakes, questioning your decisions, and predicting outcomes before they happen. If that voice is harsh, critical, or unforgiving, no amount of external success will ever feel like enough. You can change your environment, your relationships, or your goals, but if the inner dialogue remains toxic, peace will always feel out of reach. Many people try to fix their lives by changing what is visible, their job, their body, their routine, or their social circle. But they never address the unseen damage happening internally. The truth is, your life often reflects the way you speak to yourself. If you constantly tell yourself that you are behind, incapable, or not enough, your actions will slowly align with those beliefs. Healing begins when you challenge the stories you repeat in your mind. That inner voice was not born negative. It was learned. It developed through experiences, criticism, comparison, and moments when you felt unsafe or unworthy. Understanding this is important because it allows you to replace self-blame with compassion. Instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" you begin asking, "Where did I learn to speak to myself this way?" This shift opens the door to healing rather than punishment. Healing the inner voice does not mean silencing it or pretending everything is fine. It means correcting it. When the voice exaggerates your failures, you bring balance. When it shames you for resting, you remind yourself that rest is necessary. When it tells you that you are unworthy of love or success, you respond with truth instead of fear. This practice takes time, but every correction weakens the old patterns and strengthens self-trust. The way you talk to yourself determines how safe you feel within your own mind. Self-love grows when your inner voice becomes a place of guidance instead of attack. You learn to motivate yourself without cruelty, to hold yourself accountable without humiliation, and to grow without tearing yourself apart. When the voice inside your head becomes supportive, the outside world no longer feels as threatening. Before you try to fix your life, heal how you speak to yourself. Because a life built on self-respect, patience, and understanding begins with an inner voice that believes you are worthy of growth, not punishment. Many people struggle with boundaries because they fear being misunderstood, rejected, or labeled as difficult. They have been taught that saying no is rude, that protecting their time is selfish, and that putting themselves first means hurting others. Over time, this belief trains them to ignore their own needs in order to keep peace. But self-love cannot survive where boundaries do not exist. Boundaries are how you teach others how to treat you. When you do not set them, people will often take more than you can give. Not always out of malice, but out of habit. Without boundaries, resentment grows silently. You may smile on the outside while feeling drained, overwhelmed, and unseen on the inside. That emotional exhaustion is not a sign of kindness. It is a sign of self-neglect. Setting boundaries requires honesty and courage. It means acknowledging your limits and respecting them enough to communicate them clearly. You begin to say no without over-explaining. You stop apologizing for needing space, rest, or time. You realize that you are allowed to choose what you can and cannot carry, and that protecting your energy is not a betrayal of others. It is a commitment to yourself. Healthy boundaries also reveal who truly respects you. Some people will understand and adjust. Others may resist, guilt you, or try to cross the line you've drawn. This reaction is not a reflection of your wrongdoing. It is a reflection of how accustomed they were to your lack of boundaries. Self-love means standing firm even when your boundaries are challenged. Boundaries apply not only to people, but also to work, habits, and self-expectations. It is knowing when to stop pushing and allow yourself to rest. It is recognizing when productivity turns into burnout and ambition turns into self-punishment. Self-love teaches you to protect your mental and emotional health as seriously as you protect your responsibilities. When you begin to honor your boundaries, your relationship becomes healthier, your confidence grows, and your self-respect deepens. You stop living in survival mode and start living with intention. Boundaries do not push the right people away. They filter out what harms you and create space for what supports your growth. A discipline is often misunderstood as punishment, restriction, or harsh control. Many people associate it with pressure, exhaustion, or forcing themselves to do things they hate, but true discipline is not rooted in self-criticism. It is rooted in self-respect. It is the decision to care enough about your future to act responsibly in the present, even when emotions are unstable or motivation is absent. When you practice discipline, you are choosing long-term well-being over short-term comfort. You are saying no to what feels easy now so you can say yes to peace, stability, and growth later. Skipping rest, avoiding responsibility, or indulging in harmful habits may feel good in the moment, but they often create stress, regret, and chaos in the future. Discipline interrupts that cycle and replaces it with intention. Loving your future self means making choices today will reduce suffering tomorrow. It means creating routine that support your mental and physical health. It means showing up for your goals, even when no one is watching and no immediate reward is visible. Every disciplined action, waking up on time, keeping a promise, choosing consistency, becomes a message to yourself that you are reliable and worthy of effort. Discipline also builds self-trust. Each time you follow through on what you said you would do, you strengthen your belief in yourself. That belief becomes confidence. Without discipline, self-love becomes unstable because you cannot rely on yourself. With discipline, your self-respect deepens because your actions align with your values. This does not mean pushing yourself relentlessly or ignoring your limits. Healthy discipline includes knowing when to rest and when to persist. It is balance, not burnout. It is listening to your body and your mind while still honoring your responsibilities. Discipline guided by self-love is flexible, compassionate, and sustainable. Over time, discipline transforms your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who starts and quits and begin seeing yourself as someone who follows through. That shift changes how you approach challenges, setbacks, and goals. Discipline becomes less about control and more about care, a daily investment in the life you are building for yourself. Self-love cannot grow in a space filled with shame. Many people carry the weight of their past mistakes as if they are permanent labels, constantly replaying old decisions and judging themselves through today's awareness. They forget that growth changes perspective, and perspective makes earlier versions of you look flawed. But those flaws were not failures. They were lessons formed in moments when you were doing the best you could with what you knew at the time. Forgiving yourself means acknowledging that you survived situations without having the tools you have now. You made choices based on fear, pain, condition, or lack of guidance, not because you were weak or careless. Holding on to self-blame does not make you more responsible. It only keeps you emotionally stuck. Self-love begins when you allow yourself to move forward without dragging your past behind you. Many people punish themselves for staying too long, trusting the wrong people, or ignoring their intuition. But healing requires honesty, not cruelty. Instead of asking, why was I so stupid? Self-love asks, what was I trying to protect or achieve at that moment? This shift replaces judgment with understanding and opens the door to growth. Forgiveness does not mean denying responsibility or pretending mistakes did not happen. It means learning without self-destruction. You can take accountability while still offering yourself compassion. You can recognize where you went wrong without deciding that you are wrong as a person. This balance is essential for rebuilding confidence and self-respect. When you forgive yourself, you stop reliving old pain and start using it as wisdom. The energy once spent on regret becomes available for and healing, clarity, and progress. You free yourself from the need to constantly justify who you are becoming. Self-forgiveness allows you to evolve without fear of your past defining your future. Letting go of self-punishment is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of maturity. It means you trust your ability to grow, to choose differently, and to become better without needing to suffer forever. Self-love strengthens when you give yourself permission to move on, carrying the lesson but releasing the shame. Comparison quietly destroys self-love by pulling your attention away from your own journey and placing it on someone else's highlight reel. The moment you measure your progress against another person's life, you begin to question your worth, your pace, and your decisions. What starts as curiosity quickly turns into self-doubt, making you feel behind even when you are growing in ways no one else can see. Every person you compare yourself to is living a completely different reality. They have different backgrounds, opportunities, struggles, timing, and support systems. When you compare outcomes without understanding the full story, you create unrealistic expectations for yourself. You forget that growth is not linear and that success does not follow a single timeline. Self-love requires honoring your path, not racing against someone else's. Comparison also distorts perception. It makes you focus on what you lack instead of what you've built. You overlook your resilience, your effort, and the progress you've already made because your attention is fixed on someone else's achievements. Over time, this creates dissatisfaction and ingratitude, making it impossible to feel proud of yourself. Social media intensifies this betrayal. You are constantly exposed to curated moments, filtered success, and selective vulnerability. Comparing your behind the scenes struggles to someone else's polished image is unfair and damaging. Self-love means recognizing that what you see is not the full truth and refusing to let it define your self-worth. When you compare, you abandon your own values and goals. You begin chasing what looks impressive instead of what feels meaningful. This leads to misalignment, living a life that looks good to others but feels empty to you. Self-love grows when you choose fulfillment over validation. validation and alignment over approval. Breaking free from comparison requires conscious effort. You redirect your focus inward. You celebrate progress that may not be visible to others. You remind yourself that your journey is unfolding at the pace it needs to. The moment you stop measuring yourself against others, you stop betraying yourself and start building confidence rooted in authenticity. Self-love requires courage because it often asks you to step into discomfort. Comfort feels safe, familiar, and easy, but it rarely produces transformation. Growth, on the other hand, demands effort, discipline, and the willingness to face uncertainty. Choosing growth means accepting that progress can be uncomfortable, messy, and sometimes painful, but it is always necessary if you want to evolve into your fullest self. Many people avoid growth because it threatens their routines, relationships, or sense of security. Change challenges the habits and thought patterns that feel normal, even when they no longer serve you. A self-love is recognizing that temporary discomfort is a small price to pay for long-term fulfillment and empowerment. Staying in comfort may feel pleasant in the moment, but it slowly erodes your confidence, your potential, and your peace. Choosing growth also means embracing responsibility. It requires you to face your mistakes, examine your behaviors, and take deliberate actions toward improvement. You might need to set boundaries, speak uncomfortable truths, or let go of people and situations that no longer align with your values. Every choice for growth is a statement that you respect yourself enough to pursue a better version of your life, even if it means stepping into fear. Growth is often met with resistance, internally from your doubts and fears, and externally from those who prefer you stay the same. Love is about trusting your own path and prioritizing your evolution over appeasing others. It is about choosing challenges that expand your mind, heart, and spirit, even when they feel inconvenient, exhausting, or intimidating. Every time you prioritize growth over comfort, you reinforce your resilience and strengthen your self-belief. You prove to yourself that you are capable of enduring discomfort, learning from failure, and rising stronger. This consistent commitment builds inner power that is independent of validation, praise, or external conditions, forming the foundation of self-love that cannot be shaken. Self-love is not a destination. It is a journey. It is built in the quiet decisions you make every day, and how you treat yourself when no one is watching, and in the courage to stand firm even the world doubts you. It grows when you respect yourself, protect your energy, forgive your past, and choose growth over comfort. The voice inside your head, the people around you, and the challenges life throws at you cannot define your worth unless you allow them to. When you stop seeking validation, when you honor your boundaries, and when you commit to showing up for yourself consistently, you build a foundation so strong that no rejection, betrayal, or failure can shake it. Self-love that cannot be broken is the most powerful tool you will ever own. It allows you to navigate life with confidence, peace, and clarity. It allows you to create, to grow, and to thrive without needing permission. It is the ultimate act of courage and the most radical form of freedom. Remember, every choice you make to honor yourself, every moment you choose understanding over judgment, and every step you take toward growth is a brick in the unshakable structure of your self-love. Stand firm, believe in your worth, and let the world see a version of you that no one can diminish.